Jimin smiled during Jungkook's speech. What he whispered then shocked fans. You weren't supposed to survive that night. The words spilled from Jimin's lips in a breathless whisper, barely audible over the crescendo of cheers echoing through the packed arena. But Jungkook heard it. His hand, still wrapped around the microphone, trembled. A flicker of confusion, no, fear, flashed across his face, so brief that only those watching closely might have caught it. Then came the smile, practiced and beautiful, stitched perfectly over the sudden chaos behind his eyes. On stage at the Olympic Dome in Seoul, under the full blaze of camera lights and feverish adoration, everything was supposed to be perfect. Jungkook, the youngest member, the Golden Maknae, was delivering a heartfelt speech at the end of BTS's reunion concert, the first full public appearance after 2 years of silence that had nearly torn their fandom apart. Jimin stood beside him, face angelic, his arm loosely wrapped behind Jungkook's back in brotherly support. But his smile was surgical, an expression carved with the precision of someone hiding a storm. The crowd roared. Phones rose like a forest of glowing stars. They couldn't have heard it. They couldn't have known. But Jungkook did. His mind went blank for a split second, just long enough to imagine the sound of tires screaming across icy asphalt, the crash of glass, the smell of fuel leaking into cold rain. The accident. 2 years ago. The night that had nearly taken his life. No one else knew Jimin had been there. Until now. The world saw Jungkook's pause as emotional overwhelm. He resumed his speech, voice thick, hand brushing discreetly against the side of his ear, his silent signal to the earpiece team. But Jimin noticed, and his smile widened by a fraction too much. Backstage, Namjoon leaned forward from the monitors, brow furrowing. What the hell was that? He muttered. Yoongi, seated beside him with arms crossed, eyes narrowed. That wasn't part of the script. The next 15 minutes played out like a symphony of illusion. Hugs, laughter, confetti raining down like cherry blossoms in spring. But beneath the fanservice and tears, Jungkook's mind was a battlefield. He could still feel the warmth of Jimin's whisper against his ear. You weren't supposed to survive that night. What did it mean? He hadn't spoken to Jimin in nearly a year before tonight. No one had. After the accident, Jimin disappeared, officially for personal health reasons. But Jungkook remembered the last time they saw each other. At the edge of a rain-slick rooftop, Jimin's hand gripping his wrist too tightly, his eyes rimmed with something unnameable. Regret, rage, relief. The reunion concert was supposed to be healing. Closure, proof that whatever had broken could be mended. Instead, it reopened a wound Jungkook had spent years pretending had healed. After the curtain dropped, the members gathered in the green room, their laughter echoing hollowly in the sterile white light. Jimin moved through them like a ghost, hugging Taehyung, teasing Hobi, pouring himself tea with a grace that seemed choreographed. He never once looked at Jungkook. Until Jungkook confronted him in the hallway. What did you mean? Jungkook asked, his voice sharp, quiet, urgent. Jimin didn't flinch. His expression was serene, almost mournful. You heard me. Jungkook's pulse thundered in his ears. Why now? Why tonight? Because I thought I had more time, Jimin replied, tilting his head slightly, like he was observing something fragile about to shatter. But they're watching again. Who's they? Jimin leaned in, his breath ghosting against Jungkook's cheek. You should be careful who you trust. This stage isn't what it seems. Before Jungkook could answer, Jin appeared at the end of the hallway, calling them back for press photos. Jimin smiled and turned, his posture melting once again into the charm of a beloved idol. Jungkook remained frozen, staring after him, one truth crashing into his mind with terrifying clarity. Jimin wasn't warning him. He was confessing. The cameras flashed, the fans screamed, but in the space between heartbeats, something darker stirred. This wasn't a reunion. It was the beginning of a reckoning. I saw the CCTV footage, Jimin. You were there, Jungkook hissed, cornering him against the cool steel wall of the parking basement below the arena. His voice was low but trembling, veins visible on his neck, eyes wide with something closer to betrayal than anger. You told the police you weren't anywhere near me that night. You lied. You vanished. And now you whisper that. Jimin's gaze didn't waver. You think you know what you saw. I know what I saw, Jungkook snapped, stepping closer. His breath hitched, not from fear, but from the weight of memories he'd buried deep and suddenly couldn't contain. You were standing behind the car. You were watching me bleed out. Silence stretched between them like a taut wire. Jimin lowered his eyes, jaw clenched. I tried to call an ambulance. I froze. He looked up again, but this time there was fire in his eyes. You think I wanted you dead? You think I planned that? You were the only thing keeping me sane. Then why did you run? Jungkook demanded. Why disappear for a year and come back like nothing ever happened? Jimin's laugh was bitter. Because I was being followed. Because I couldn't protect you if I stayed. Because you weren't supposed to remember any of it. Jungkook's fists tightened, knuckles white. Who's following you? You don't get it, do you? Jimin's voice dropped to a whisper, but it held more power than any scream. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a drunk driver. It wasn't a mistake. It was a warning. And you survived when you weren't meant to. Now they're watching you too. Jungkook stepped back, breath shallow. Who? Jimin didn't answer. He reached into his coat, pulled out a small USB stick, and pressed it into Jungkook's hand. Don't open this here. Go home. Lock the doors. And whatever you do, don't let anyone from HYBE know you have it. Jungkook stared at the stick like it was made of fire. Are you saying HYBE? I'm saying, Jimin interrupted, that the company we gave our lives to is no longer the same. People have changed. You need to stop trusting the image. Start seeing the shadows behind it. Upstairs, the after-party had already begun. Music pulsed through the floors like a heartbeat. Flashbulbs popped. Fans were screaming outside the building. But in that moment, in the cold darkness of the parking level, the two stood as enemies or allies, neither of them knew. Back in the main lounge, Taehyung tilted his head, a look of worry settling in. Where are Jimin and Jungkook? Bathroom, probably, Hobei said, sipping champagne. You know how dramatic they can be. But Namjoon's eyes lingered too long on the empty hallway. He excused himself quietly, following a hunch that buzzed at the edge of his mind like static. He didn't know yet what had shifted, but something had broken loose tonight. Something dangerous. Later that night, Jungkook stood alone in his apartment, the city sprawled behind the glass like a sleeping monster. He hesitated before plugging the USB into his encrypted laptop. He felt as if 1,000 ghosts were watching. The folder contained 4 files. The first, a video. He clicked play. It was silent surveillance footage. A dim corridor. A man in a HYBE jacket passed an envelope to a second man whose face was obscured. But as the camera angle shifted, the second man stepped forward and the face came into view. It was Min Yoongi. Jungkook recoiled. The timestamp read, 2 weeks before the accident. The second file, a medical report, his own. Only it wasn't his. The name was Jeon Jungkook, but the blood type was wrong. So was the emergency contact. The photo attached was not him. It was someone who looked too much like him. A shiver ran down his spine. A clone, a body double. No, something deeper, an identity split. Was this why he was sent to that car? Was he meant to replace someone? The third file was an audio file. He clicked it. Get rid of him quietly. I don't care how. If he survives, we're finished. The voice was modulated, but beneath the layers of digital masking, he swore he heard a familiar cadence. Namjoon. The last file was a set of scanned letters, written in tight, frantic handwriting. The signature at the end was unmistakable. Park Jimin. The letter described the Project Echo initiative, something launched internally years ago, buried beneath shell companies and false development budgets. It spoke of mental conditioning, voice manipulation technology, memory wipes. The victims, K-pop idols. Controlled replaced silenced. Jungkook slammed the laptop shut, sweat slicking his palms. His world was fracturing. The next morning, all 7 members were called into a closed-door meeting at HYBE's private office. The CEO smiled, too widely. Boys, he said, We have exciting news, a documentary, your story. The world needs to know the real BTS. Jimin, seated beside Jungkook, leaned in ever so slightly. They're going to use it to rewrite everything, he murmured. If you don't fight back, they'll erase who we are. Jungkook didn't answer. His hands were under the table, gripping the USB in his coat pocket like a weapon. He looked around the table, at Namjoon's calm face, at Yoongi's unreadable expression, at Taehyung's innocence, Jin's pride, Hobai's light. Who could he trust? Who was already gone? He realized in that moment, the fans had no idea they were watching puppets perform, and the strings ran deeper than he could have ever imagined. The battle wasn't coming. It had already begun. You think they'll believe you? Namjoon's voice was calm, too calm, like a lake hiding the corpse at the bottom. His words hung in the air of the empty rehearsal studio like a noose, just seconds after Jungkook slid the USB across the table between them. Jungkook didn't blink. I don't care if they believe me. I just need to know if it's true. Namjoon picked up the USB slowly, turning it between his fingers. He didn't plug it in. Instead, he looked up with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Where did you get this? You tell me, Jungkook replied coldly. It's your voice in the audio. Namjoon leaned back, arms crossed. You know how easy it is to fake a voice these days. Deep fakes, modulation, AI reconstruction. Anyone could have made this. And the documents. A fabrication, Namjoon said too quickly. That's a lot of fabrication for something you're dismissing so casually. Namjoon stood, eyes hardening. You're playing with fire, Jungkook. You don't know the people you're dealing with. This isn't some scandal you can cry about on VLive and make disappear with a cute filter. Jungkook stood too, stepping closer. Then tell me the truth. Tell me why there's another medical record under my name. Tell me why there's footage of Yoongi exchanging an envelope weeks before my crash. Tell me why Jimin. He stopped himself. Namjoon raised an eyebrow. Jimin gave it to you, didn't he? Silence. Namjoon scoffed. Of course he did. That damn martyr complex. Always playing the wounded hero. You think he's trying to save you? He's the one who started all this. Jungkook's chest tightened. You're lying. Namjoon leaned in, his voice a whisper now, laced with venom. I told you back then to stay quiet. I cleaned up that crash. I kept you alive. I kept the fans from losing their god. And this is how you thank me. You cleaned it up, Jungkook's voice cracked. You knew. I controlled it, Namjoon said, jaw tight. Because if the world saw what really happened that night, everything we built would have burned. You mean what you built? Namjoon didn't respond. He turned away, shoulders rigid. You don't want to burn this world, Jungkook, you need it. Suddenly, the door creaked open. Yoongi stepped inside, eyes darting between the two. Am I interrupting something? Jungkook took a step back, his hand instinctively brushing the edge of the table, grounding himself. You tell me, what was in the envelope? Yoongi's face didn't change, but his fingers twitched, subtle but telling. Namjoon answered for him. Instructions, to keep you alive long enough to be reconditioned. But Jimin got to you first. Yoongi sighed and sat down, his usual languid posture now stiff. I didn't know it would go that far. Go how far? Jungkook snapped. The crash was real, Yoongi said, but it wasn't meant to kill you, it was meant to reset you. Jungkook stared. Reset. They wanted you to forget, Yoongi muttered. Clean slate, new image, you were spiraling after Japan. The drinking, the fights with staff, they thought you were becoming unpredictable. Jungkook's voice broke. So they tried to erase me. Not you, just the parts that didn't fit. Namjoon remained silent now, watching Jungkook carefully, calculating. You bastards, Jungkook whispered. You tried to rebuild me like I'm a product. You are a product, Namjoon snapped, the mask finally slipping. We all are. Do you think we made it this far because of talent alone? Do you know how many lives were traded to keep BTS clean? Don't act like you're proud of that, Jungkook said, shaking. I'm not, Namjoon said quietly now. But I am alive, we all are. And the only reason the world still loves us is because we've kept the rot buried. If that comes out, it's over. Not just for us, for everyone. Jungkook's voice cracked. So we keep pretending. Yoongi lit a cigarette with shaking fingers. It's the only way we survive. The room fell silent again. Then the studio door swung open violently. Jimin. His face was pale, jaw clenched, hair still damp from the rain outside. He looked like he hadn't slept. They found me. Everyone turned. Who? Namjoon asked. The ones behind Echo, Jimin said, voice shaking. They're here tonight. Yoongi stood. How do you know? They left this in my car. He threw a small envelope onto the table. Jungkook picked it up, tearing it open. Inside was a single photo. It was Jungkook, asleep in his apartment. Taken from just feet away. The timestamp was last night. Namjoon cursed under his breath. They know you opened the USB, Jimin said. They know you've started asking questions. They won't kill you yet, but they'll make you wish they had. Jungkook felt ice crawl up his spine. Jimin walked toward him, placing a hand on his shoulder. You're not crazy, Jungkook. You're waking up. And what happens when I'm fully awake? Jungkook asked, his voice hoarse. Jimin's expression was haunted. Then you'll have to choose. Keep dancing in the light or start tearing down the darkness. Outside, the rain hit the pavement like gunfire. Inside, 7 years of brotherhood were fracturing under the weight of a truth too dangerous to name. None of them noticed the small red light blinking in the corner of the ceiling. They were being recorded, every word, every silence. And somewhere in a cold, glass tower across the city, a figure watched them all through a screen. Smiling. You think you're the only one who's been watched. The words came from Jin, leaning against the studio doorway with a look that was neither amused nor surprised. His eyes, usually warm and easy, now bore the weariness of someone who had seen too much and said too little for too long. The other members froze, caught mid-breath. Jimin stepped forward, incredulous. You knew. Jin nodded once. I've known since 2019. Namjoon stood straighter, his voice sharp. Why didn't you say anything? Because I didn't have proof, and because back then, I still thought maybe we could fix it from the inside, Jin said. But I was wrong. Jungkook turned to him, face pale. So you've known all this time and just let it happen? I tried to protect you in ways you'll never understand, Jin said, eyes locking with his. I buried evidence, I faked timestamps, I played dumb to keep you out of the crosshairs, but now, you've all stepped in the light, there's no going back. Yoongi exhaled a cloud of smoke, flicking ash onto the floor. So what now? They're watching us, listening to us. We can't trust the company, and the fans would never believe us even if we screamed the truth from the rooftops. Jimin's voice was tight. We don't need the fans to believe us yet, we just need to survive. Survive what? Taehyung asked from behind them. They all turned. He had been quiet until now, lurking behind the studio's half-closed door. Headphones still hanging around his neck like a noose. His face was unreadable. Whatever this is, echo, clones, manipulation, memory wipes, it sounds like a damn thriller script, Taehyung said, stepping fully into the room. I want to believe you, I do, but this is insane. It's insane because it's real, Jimin said softly. Taehyung's jaw clenched. Then tell me exactly what they did to Jungkook. Jungkook's breath caught. He looked at Jimin, who lowered his head. They tried to rewrite him, Jimin said. Mentally, biochemically. After the accident, they kept him sedated under controlled conditioning. I saw the files. They were adjusting his memories, filtering the aggression, suppressing guilt, rebuilding him into something more controllable. Taehyung's eyes widened. Jesus. Why do you think he doesn't remember most of that year? Jimin continued. He thought it was trauma. It was engineered. Namjoon finally broke his silence. And before you turn this into a witch hunt, Jimin, don't forget, you signed the same damn NDA the rest of us did. Don't start with that, Jimin growled. I stayed silent while they hurt people. I told myself I was protecting the group. That was a lie. I was protecting my own fear. Yoongi muttered under his breath. We all were. Jin walked to the center of the room, unzipping his jacket. They're planning another reset. Everyone turned. Jin pulled out a thin folder, tossing it onto the table. It's scheduled for December. They're calling it the Rebirth Tour. But it's not just a comeback, it's a purge, a rollout. They're testing new tech, something called SIRA, a synchronization implant. They want full behavioral control this time, not just memory shaping. Jungkook opened the folder. Inside were printed schematics, names, dates. One stood out. Test Subject 7, Jeon Jungkook. He felt nausea rise in his throat. How long? He whispered. Jin looked away. It's been in motion since your crash. I want out, Jungkook said suddenly. I don't care about the tour, the contracts, the fans. I want out of them. You think they'll let you walk? Namjoon asked quietly. No one leaves the stage, Jungkook, not alive. A bitter silence swallowed the room. We can't do this alone, Yoongi finally said. If we're going to burn this thing to the ground, we need someone outside. Someone who knows the system but isn't under it anymore. Jimin looked up slowly. I know someone. Namjoon's head tilted. Who? Jimin hesitated, then said a name none of them had expected to hear again. Baekhyun. The room exploded with voices. You're insane. He'd never help us. He's EXO. But Jimin held up a hand. He's not with SM anymore. He's been off-grid since 2023, and the reason he left, same as us. He saw behind the curtain. He just survived it better. Jungkook leaned forward. Can we trust him? Jimin's face darkened. We don't have to, we just need him to talk. That night, Jungkook drove alone through the city, the USB now locked in a hidden box beneath his seat. His hands trembled against the wheel. The streets blurred, rain streaking the windshield. He wasn't sure where the fear ended and the rage began. At a red light, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. They're already inside your apartment. Don't go home. He stared at the message, pulse hammering. Before he could reply, his rearview mirror lit up, 2 black vans, headlights off, crawling toward him through the mist. He hit the gas. The chase was immediate. Cars weaving behind him like predators, engines growling. He took a sharp left, tires shrieking on wet asphalt. His phone rang, Jimin's name. Don't stop. Don't go to any known address. Head to the Hanam tunnels. There's a safe spot near the river underpass. Jungkook swerved onto the highway, heart pounding. His thoughts raced faster than the car. This wasn't just about control anymore. It was extermination. They were cleaning house. As he neared the tunnel, a figure stepped out from the shadows ahead, arms raised. He slammed the brakes. The figure didn't move. As the headlights fell on the man's face, Jungkook's breath caught. It was Baekhyun. And in his hand, he held another USB, bloody, scratched, and glowing faint blue. Welcome to the other side, Baekhyun said as the vans screeched behind Jungkook. Gunshots rang out. Gunshots shattered the silence of the tunnel, bouncing off the concrete like a drumbeat of chaos. Jungkook ducked instinctively, his car still idling, headlights catching the glint of Baekhyun's eyes as the older man dove toward the passenger side and yanked the door open. Drive. Jungkook didn't hesitate. He hit the gas, tires screeching as they peeled into the depths of the tunnel, bullets trailing them like stinging insects. One cracked the back windshield, glass raining over the seats. Baekhyun didn't even flinch. Who the hell are they? Jungkook shouted, eyes flicking between the road and the mirror. The black vans were still in pursuit, but farther now. They're not from HYBE, not directly, Baekhyun replied, sliding the bloody USB into his coat. They're a private group, contractors. HYBE calls them cleanup units. Their job is to erase evidence, or witnesses. I'm the evidence. Baekhyun looked at him. Exactly. They drove in silence for a few minutes, engine roaring, city lights beginning to bleed back into the windshield as they emerged from the other side of the tunnel. You still have the first USB? Baekhyun asked. Jungkook nodded. Hidden in the car. Good, we need both. What I have, this one, it's the blue file. Internal access only, top-tier clearance. Jimin told me you'd need it, and he was right. What's on it? Baekhyun took a slow breath. Footage, real-time data logs, implants, procedures, psychological conditioning trials, not just on you. Jungkook's hands tightened on the wheel. Then who? Taehyung, Hosak, me. Silence. Baekhyun looked away. They didn't just choose you, you were all candidates, subjects. They just picked you to go public with the golden boy, the perfect face. The rest of us, we were backups or control groups. Jungkook's voice was a whisper. This is bigger than I thought. It's not just BTS, it's the industry. They pulled into a dim underground garage beneath an old hotel near Dongdaemun, where Baekhyun claimed the signal was jammed. No surveillance. No trackers. They got out of the car and moved quickly, every sound amplified in Jungkook's ears. The scrape of his boots on concrete, the metallic clang of the elevator door, Baekhyun's heavy breathing. In the room upstairs, a makeshift command center was already set up. Laptops, hard drives, signal blockers, an old corkboard cluttered with photographs and maps. The center photo was a familiar face. Namjoon. Below it in red ink, Operator 0. Jungkook stared at it. Operator 0. Baekhyun nodded grimly. That's the title they gave the person responsible for behavioral management inside HYBE's classified department. He's not just the leader of BTS anymore. He's part of the control structure. You're saying Namjoon, in charge of programming us. Not all of it, but he knew, from the beginning. He didn't just cover up your accident, he authorized it. Jungkook staggered back, bile rising in his throat. No, that's not him. Namjoon protected us. He raised me. He raised a version of you they could manage, Baekhyun said. No, Jungkook whispered. That can't be right. He cried when I was in the hospital. I saw it. Baekhyun stepped closer. That's the point. You were meant to see it. You were meant to trust him, so you'd never question him. Jungkook sat down, heart racing so violently he thought he might pass out. Baekhyun continued. We have two choices now. We release this information, or we use it to negotiate. Jungkook looked up sharply. Negotiate with them. Baekhyun nodded. We go public, we start a war. If we go quiet, we buy time to gather allies. Leverage. Jungkook slammed his fist on the table. I don't want leverage, I want truth. You want truth. Truth doesn't survive in this world. Truth is currency, and it's only valuable if you know how to spend it. Jungkook stood. We release it. Baekhyun sighed. Then they'll come for everyone you love. I'm not afraid anymore. You should be. Jungkook met his gaze. I already died once. The rest is just noise. There was a knock at the door. Both men froze. Baekhyun gestured for silence, then drew a small pistol from beneath the desk. He approached the door slowly, every muscle coiled. Who is it? He barked. It's Jimin. Baekhyun opened the door a crack. Jimin stepped in, drenched, face pale. Behind him, Yoongi. Jungkook's heart twisted. You came. Jimin walked in silently and locked the door behind him. Yoongi followed, eyes scanning the room, jaw clenched. You told him, Yoongi asked Baekhyun. I showed him the blue file. Yoongi ran a hand through his hair. Then we're all in. Baekhyun nodded. What about the others? Jimin looked down. Hobei disappeared 2 nights ago. No contact. Taehyung is under 24-hour surveillance. Jin is being moved. He found a transmitter in his car. He's burned. Jungkook felt the ground shift beneath him. Yoongi pulled out a small hard drive and placed it on the table. This is everything I could grab before the system noticed. Voice mod tracks, the real accident footage, internal memos from the Echo project. It names names, board members, doctors, investors. Jungkook stared at it. We could destroy them. We could, Jimin said, but we'd also destroy ourselves. Then let it burn, Jungkook said, eyes wild. Yoongi looked at him, really looked at him. Are you ready for what happens when the fans realize the version of you they worship was built in a lab? Jungkook's chest heaved. They deserve to know. Jimin stepped forward. Then we do this together. They didn't notice that Baekhyun had stepped away to the window. They're here, he said softly. A helicopter circled above, silent but too close. Lights passed over the building. Then came the hum. That deep, terrifying hum, low frequency, designed to disable electronics. Jungkook's phone died instantly. Every screen in the room flickered and cut out. The hard drives whined. Baekhyun turned. EMP, they're wiping us clean. Jimin grabbed the hard drive. We have to move. The lights cut. Darkness swallowed the room. Jungkook reached for Jimin's hand. I won't run anymore. Jimin whispered back, then let's finish this. The stairwell reeked of rust and old rain as they fled, 4 shadows pressed against the narrow concrete walls, every breath sharp and fast. Jungkook held the drive under his coat, protected like a pulse. The city above them had become a stage of surveillance, and every window was now a lens pointed at them. The hum of the EMP had quieted, but the damage had been done. The room was compromised, the data unstable, the power gone. Jimin led the way, his silhouette taut with urgency. Baekhyun followed, a gun still hidden in his coat. Yoongi trailed behind, one hand on the railing, the other gripping a knife he hadn't explained. Jungkook moved silently, caught between fear and the clarity that only comes when the curtain has finally fallen. They exited through a service door into the alley behind the hotel. The air was thick with fog, headlights blurred in the distance. A single black sedan was parked at the edge of the street, unmarked, engine running. Baekhyun looked at it, then at Jimin. That yours? No. Yoongi muttered, then we run. But the back window of the sedan lowered. And Jin was inside. Get in, now. They didn't hesitate. The car peeled away the moment the doors slammed shut. Jin didn't say anything for a long stretch of road. His eyes were dark, face unreadable. His hand trembled slightly on the gear stick. You were supposed to meet me at Hangang, Jimin said. I was tailed, had to reroute, Jin replied. They think I'm heading to the airport. Did you wipe your tracker? Crushed the chip, burned the car, got a new ID, but it's only a matter of time. Jungkook stared at him. You're really all in now, aren't you? Jin finally glanced at him in the mirror. I've always been in, Jungkook. I just didn't want to drag you down with me. You should have. No, Jin said softly. You still had hope. The car sped toward the edge of the city, out where Seoul blurred into mountains. As they passed through the final tunnel, Jimin broke the silence. We're releasing the files. Jin didn't flinch. Then you better know who you're releasing them to. Direct to press, Jungkook said. Journalists, leakers, forums, Reddit, fans, everyone. You'll start a wildfire. That's the point. Yoongi rubbed his eyes. What happens after? What happens when the world sees the videos? When fans realize everything was scripted, our tears, our breaks, even our fights. They'll believe what they want to believe, Baekhyun said from the back seat. But the silence will end, and that's what matters. Jungkook opened the hard drive. It was still warm, but the light blinked alive. He turned to Jimin. We need internet, untraceable, satellite or burst point. I know a guy, Jimin said. Off the grid. He used to handle signals for EXO tour. He owes me. 20 minutes later, they reached a cabin hidden deep in the trees, wooden, dusty, with an old satellite dish buried in snow behind it. Inside, it smelled like damp paper and soldered wires. A man in a hoodie emerged from the basement, face partially burned, eyes sharp. He looked at Jimin. You're really doing it. Jimin nodded. All of it. The man didn't argue. He took the hard drive, connected it to a tangle of machines, and began decrypting. Jungkook walked outside, alone for a moment, letting the cold sink into his skin. He looked up at the stars. For the first time in years, they didn't seem like stage lights. Baekhyun joined him. You remind me of someone I used to be, Baekhyun said. I'm scared, Jungkook admitted. Good, Baekhyun replied. Means you're not broken yet. Jungkook turned. Did they do this to you too? Baekhyun's eyes clouded. They tried. They injected me with silence. I survived because I disappeared. Inside, Jimin stared at the upload bar. 30%. Yoongi paced the room, muttering lyrics under his breath, an old habit from the studio when his nerves got the best of him. Jin sat by the window, watching the tree line. Then came the sound. A low whirring. Drones. Jin stood. We're out of time. Upload not finished, the technician shouted. We hold them off, Baekhyun said, drawing his gun. No one gets through that door. Jungkook stepped beside him. You sure? Baekhyun asked. I'm not an idol anymore. They barricaded the windows. Shadows moved through the trees. Red lights flickered in the distance. Yoongi found an old flare gun in the basement. He loaded it. Just like our debut, huh? All fireworks and panic. Jimin smiled. Only this time it's real. The first drone came in fast, glass shattered, wood splintered. Baekhyun shot it midair. 2 more followed, then voices, footsteps. Jin threw a Molotov from the porch. Flames rose. Inside, the upload hit 92%. Jungkook stood in the center of the chaos, staring at the monitor. He whispered to himself. This is for the real me. Outside, the woods lit up with fire and floodlights. But the signal broke through. Upload complete. The screen turned white. Then black. And across the world, in thousands of phones, laptops, and televisions, the truth began to spread. The cabin was burning. Flames licked the roof as smoke curled into the forest sky like a final act. Red and orange swallowed the structure piece by piece, as the ground trembled under the boots of men with no names, drones still circling, scanning, too late to stop what had already escaped their control. But inside, the screen had already gone dark. Across the globe, the signal had burst open. A single encrypted file, mirrored and spread through fan networks, leaked onto public forums, torrent chains, whistleblower sites. The footage played without context, without warning, raw, terrifying. Surveillance videos, medical reports, screamed confessions, voice memos in the dark. The headline trended within minutes. The Idol Machine. BTS's name flooded every platform, not for a comeback, not for a scandal, but for a revelation. For the first time, fans weren't just reacting to a concept, they were awakening to a system. There was disbelief, then rage, then grief. Some denied it. It's edited, it's fake. Some believed every frame. I knew something was wrong. And some most simply cried. Not because they'd been lied to, but because they realized the boys they loved had been trapped in a cage all along. That their brightest smiles were often screams in disguise. In a private hospital outside Seoul, Kim Taehyung sat alone in a white room, watching a muted television. His hands shook as the footage of Jungkook's conditioning played again, grainy and horrific. He didn't blink. A nurse came in, eyes wide. Mr. Kim, they've released it. It's everywhere. Taehyung looked at her slowly. Then I want to go home. Jin made it to Busan before they shut down the highways. He dyed his hair, changed his name, and vanished. But his final message, sent from a burner device, would be archived by millions. They tried to script our lives, but we wrote the ending. Yoongi disappeared into the countryside. Some said he died in the fire. Others claimed he resurfaced under a different alias, working on underground music that exposed government corruption. No one could prove anything, but a file titled Min Shadow 7, WAV showed up on SoundCloud 2 months later. It was a confession, layered in white noise and grief. Baekhyun was arrested, but not before he sent everything he knew to the European Commission for Human Rights. He didn't resist. His mugshot went viral. Jimin remained hidden. His last message to the group chat was a single sentence. If you ever hear a song without me in it, ask why. And Jungkook. Jungkook was last seen at Han River alone at sunrise, a hoodie over his head. His scars healed but not gone. Someone snapped a photo, him holding a daisy barefoot on the cold pavement. He never gave interviews, never explained the footage, never claimed responsibility. He just left. The world moved on, but slower. Idol contracts changed, agencies fell, new groups emerged but with new rules, transparency, consent, freedom. And BTS. Their legacy fractured into two truths. One told on stages, in old music videos and nostalgia-heavy playlists. The other whispered in alleys, through anonymous forums, late-night conversations where someone always asked, "Do you think it was all real?" And someone always answered, "Maybe too real." Years later, a fan would open a USB found inside a vintage album case. It would contain nothing but a voice recording. Jungkook's voice. "I wasn't born an idol. I was made into one. But I reclaimed myself. Not on stage, not in the spotlight, just in silence. If you're listening to this, then maybe you're starting to wake up too. Don't let them write your story. Burn the script. Be the noise, be the scream." Then a pause. And a final whisper. "I'm free now." The file ended. The screen went black. And somewhere, far from the stage lights, the boy who had once been made into a symbol walked into a life no one would ever choreograph again.